where you're trying to go? I don't know whether that paints the picture well.
Good question. I guess if I understood it well, it's mostly on the onboarding process and the orientation you talked about.
Welcome once again to the Voice of CX Africa, where Africa speaks and the world listens. Stephen Kagame, your host today, and joining me in studio is none other than a guest. You know, we've been having a duo conversation with Laura, but she's not with us today. And today I decided to have a conversation that is very pertinent to our setting in Africa. And that's none other than employee experience and how it's affecting customer experience in our day-to-day environment. So with me in studio is Herbert Kamanzi. He's an HR professional with 10 years of experience, having worked in different sectors, including banks, payments, and technology. He brings with us conversations that are road-tested, different insights that we're going to get to hear on what company culture is, on why that affects employee delivery, productivity, and many other things that help us understand the ins and outs of companies. So allow me delve deep into this conversation with our very own guest today, Herbert Kamanzi. Herbert Kamanzi, it's a pleasure having you on the podcast today.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
It's really amazing how you quickly just gave me a yes to joining us for a very maiden podcast. And for me, that speaks a lot about how flexible you are and how willing you are to share your experiences with us today. So Herbert, we started something last week, and that was about employee experience. We touched a bit about, the journey of how employees get to acquire talent, how they put out adverts, and then, someone has to evaluate whether they are the perfect fit for a particular role. And also, we touched things to do with company culture after the onboarding process, what happens to the employee. So just to break the ice for us, Herbert, from your journey, looking at your experience dealing with different sectors and also dealing with different companies, I would love to understand how is the employee life cycle like? How would you want to paint that picture for us? Would you walk us through what the employee life cycle looks like, from the time they're acquired to the time they become alumni? Probably they leave the company and maybe choose to go to another brand. Mm-hmm. Would love to kind of understand that and what informs hiring in our day-to-day, especially from the context that we are in. Yes, so pretty much that's what I would want us to break the ice with, if you don't mind walking us through that.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Once again, I appreciate you for hosting me on this platform.
Yes.
I'll try to really summarize it or break it down in one journey, as you mentioned, how an employee gets in contact with any organization.
Yeah.
Then the process they go through, and how they get onboarded, if they're successfully hired, how they get onboarded, and their journey throughout their stay with the organization. And of course, that final stage where they are, we're bidding, an organization is bidding farewell to the employee, and which is the separation stage. I guess to begin with, we are all familiar with the recruitment process, which is really where the organization reaches out to candidates, different candidates, but also approaching it backwards is how does the organization actually think about or get to a point where it's starting to source for talent. This means that the organization is definitely has a need. They have identified a need to hire talent, basically to come and join the business and contribute to the objectives and the goals of the business, right? So there's a lot of background work that is done before they actually get to the market to start sourcing for talent. And once that is done, they advertise, then they start the sourcing process. And through advertising and sourcing, there's definitely what they have packed in their what we call the job descriptions, the job adverts. There's definitely what they're trying to sell there at the market. And it's that that talent or whoever that is looking for employment is going to screen through. And if they feel like it aligns or fits into their vision, or let's say it's a job that really fits into their qualifications and skill set and also purpose, then that's how they apply. So that's now how the relationship starts. They apply, they get screened, they get interviewed, that whole entire recruitment process. Now, once the candidate is successfully hired, they get onboarded. So now this is now the first touch point between an employee and the organization. Yes. Now this is where the employee starts to experience firsthand what the organization, before it was more external, but yes, now it's internal. So they go through the onboarding process, they get to know more about the role requirements, they get to know about the culture of the organization, they meet the team, the teams, then the journey kicks off. Yeah. Now, the relationship here now is going to be a bit different because now it's about the organization now is expecting you to deliver. Yeah. So in the process of delivering now, this is where they're going to start tracking your performance, also evaluating you to see if actually you're delivering what they hired you for, because at this stage, they're also now paying you for your services or for whatever you're doing. Now, once you're confirmed, because there's a probation period in between there, usually between 3 months to 6 months, depending on your level, depending on the job requirement, and the satisfaction, basically. But it's tracked around 3 to 6 months. So once you're successfully now confirmed, now you're a full-time employee, you're confirmed by the organization. Now, also, the relationship changes a bit, because before it was the organization, did we make the right decision through the recruitment process? Did we hire the right person, right? And then you're also checking them also. Is this the right culture? What they advertise there, how the conversations we had, what they sold to me, is it really true? Is this also a culture I'm fitting in? You're also checking, testing also to see if you're really going to, this is an environment you're going to survive in, you're going to be able to deliver in. So once you're confirmed, now all and good, you've all checked hands and you're good to go. Now, the next journey here is really now to track your, now, two things play here. One is on the organization side, where now they have to make sure that how do we retain, the question now is, how are we going to retain this talent for long term, right? Because they are going to start now investing in you. Beside paying for your salary, your basic salary, and all the allowances and benefits you agreed in the contract, but now there's also making sure that you keep performing to your level best, but also investing in where you have gaps, right? So there's an extra investment they're going to do, and then also making sure that you're comfortable, you're in a good working environment, your well-being is taken care of. All that, there's a cost behind it. So now, for an employee now, you're also now thinking about, okay, yes, I'm here, but how am I going to professionally grow, there's also that expectation. I need to move from, depending on the level you join the organization at, maybe if you are at the officer level or managerial level, you're also looking at growth. What are the growth opportunities? How am I going to move from one level to another level? How am I going to move from an officer level to a managerial to? So basically, there's those expectations from both sides and investments that need to be made. But it's mostly on the part of the organization. So also making sure that your career path is clear, development plans are there, retain you basically. So I guess this is tracked through the talent management strategies that are going to drive this relationship. How compensation-wise, you're not going to be on the same salary you joined on. Your salary has to grow. There is inflation adjustments that need to be made. There is promotions, performance-based promotions. So all those things have to play. When the organization gets it right, there's a high chance that they are going to maintain this talent for the long term. Yes. If they don't offer growth opportunities, they don't offer an environment that is inclusive, that takes care of their well-being, welfare, there's a high chance that this employee will stay for a short period of time, and they find other organizations that are offering what they're looking for, because employee needs are always changing. That's the fact. So it's very important for the organization to keep track of that. Then luckily, if it's the organization is able to retain the employee for long term, at the end of the day, again, long term it will also be defined. It can be 5 years, it can be 10 years, depending on that relationship, the talent management relationship they've had.
Herbert, sorry to cut you short. I just want us to, I like the fact that you've really given us a breakdown of that journey. But again, I'm trying to look at the moments of truth that most employees, once they're onboarded, face in the process of trying to get acquainted with the company. Because, like you said, you have a job description put out there for someone to look at and feel like, okay, I think I have what it takes to land this job, So now that I've been onboarded, you talked about the probation period being 3 months to 6 months, based off of, different companies and their policies. I had an experience of being onboarded into, I have a hospital experience, firstly trained as a pharmacist before I got into being a marketer.
Interesting.
So I was onboarded in one of the biggest hospitals in Kampala, Uganda. And the first time I get there, I'm put on the front line. I didn't quite understand what it is that I wanted to do because I wasn't oriented well. I was just put there, like start, And when I got there, I had to figure out things myself, made quite a number of mistakes that probably costed, the organization some money. So because of that, I was then pulled away from the front line and taken in the back to kind of like just observe and get acquainted with how the organization works. So what is it that organizations do prior to onboarding these employees or this talent that makes it easy for them to gel into the ethos of the organization, into the culture of the organization? Avoiding those moments of truth where I'm here and I'm already doing things the way I know how to do them. But I feel like if I had a template to follow in terms of like standard operating procedures, I should have done it better. So as you're talking about that kind of striked, and I felt like you might want to give us an experience of how many organizations do it, the orientation process, like how do you get someone to acquaint themselves with what you represent and where you're trying to go? I don't know whether that paints the picture well.
Good question. I guess if I understood it well, it's mostly on the onboarding process and the orientation you talked about. So I think there is a bit of proactiveness that needs to be done even before the employee joins the organization. So the onboarding, there is pre and post onboarding.
Yeah.
So this is some things need to be taken care of before, or information needs to be shared before the employee joins the organization, and also through the recruitment process. There's a lot of information that should be shared to the candidate, and then also let me also backtrack it also. How we design job descriptions and job specification is very, very important. So we need to really be able to have done enough job analysis to make sure that the individual we are bringing on board is really coming in to fit or to fit in a certain position that they're going to be able to deliver on the expectations. So basically, they have seen a business need. So getting it right in terms of the job roles and responsibilities, and then also the job specification, the knowledge, the skills that are required for the job is very, very critical. So now let's get to the point where now on the onboarding phase. Now you need to share, let's say, things like policies, values, anything that is to do with documentation to the employee for them to read before they even join. Because probably they've given you a notice period. You've agreed on a notice of 2 weeks, 1 month. Sharing these documents before and get them to know what to expect.
Yes.
When they join the organization is very, very important. Because it reduces the pressure of an employee joining, and now you're now bombarding them with so much information to consume. At the same time, you're expecting them to start delivering. Probably this role has been open for a couple of months. There's a lot of backlog that they need to dive in. And so doing that before they join, in terms of the culture, policies, and what to expect. So once they join now, it's really more about orientation that is focused on job performance. So basically, you're introducing them to, you're reviewing the together the performance, we'll say KPIs.
Yes.
We'll call them key performance indicators.
Yes.
How is success going to look like for them? So I believe those are now should be the most important conversation that an employee should be having when they join the organization. And what are the tools, what are the resources available for them to succeed, introducing them to the team, leadership styles, expectations from leadership. This way, when the employee is well qualified for the role and they're given this on-the-job orientations on performance, on how to immediately start delivering, it makes it easy for them to adapt first and to also start delivering and giving results. So for me, that's how I would approach it and look at it.
Yes.
And there's a high chance for this employee to really pass their probation period, because you don't want to get to a point where after 3 months or 6 months, you're forced now to terminate this employee because now they can't perform. They've not met your expectations. Yes. There's a cost around it that any organization wouldn't want to incur in that sense.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Thank you so much, Herbert. I think that kind of paints the picture well for me. And now, there's a challenge I've noticed, and this you might want to also give me your mind on it, is role misalignment. I've given you my story of how I started off as a pharmacist and then became a marketer. But I got to discover that as I continued to work and get to interact with people, I noticed that I was gravitating towards, marketing, comms, and customer experience. So many employees get into organizations and they don't quite have a clear purpose as to why they came into that organization.
That's true.
And that in the long run affects their performance, because when someone gets lost into routine, you don't see so much initiative in what they're doing. I personally got myself in that zone where I knew that I would be at work at 8. I would see patients, give them drugs. Then by maybe 6, 5, I'm leaving the hospital. So it became like a song on repeat. Then I eventually felt like this wasn't my place, But it came because I'm very, very given to purpose. When I do something for 3 years and I don't see myself growing, much of the time it stifles me when it comes to productivity. I feel like I need to find another challenging place or something that can cause me to reinvent myself and then do things bigger than I thought I would. How are companies creating an environment where employees find alignment with their purpose and alignment with the bigger vision of the organization, such that it's fulfilling for them to show up at work? I like to say that, how can you create a culture where someone will be looking forward to a Monday, to just show up to work?
True.
Yeah.
True.
So it's a broad question, but I just wanted to, you to kind of understand where it's coming from and maybe share your experience. Yeah.
That's a very good question, Steve. And I strongly believe that so many organizations are struggling with getting this right. But I would approach it in this way. There's a background work that really organizations need to do, and this is really HR to work on this. Definitely with their stakeholders, with support of their stakeholders, which are the other departments and the leadership teams. So there are two systems or tools that need to be put in place. First of all, I talked about the job analysis, really understanding, so the organizational structure first. So what do we want to achieve as an organization? This is the vision, the mission, and then it's a breaking down into goals and objectives.
Yes.
Right. So now, when that is clear, and it changes with time depending on the business owners, the owners of the business, what they want to really achieve, but that's okay. But again, once that is clear, now HR comes in play to say that, okay, now, what is the structure we're putting in place? What jobs do we need for to be able to achieve these objectives or business goals or vision, right? So now, once that's mapped out on the organizational structure, now there's a deep work that needs to be done on analyzing what exactly these jobs are going to look like. When you talk about, let's say, for example, a teller in a bank or an operations manager, right? What does that actually mean? What is the teller going to be to do, contribute, right? So you try to do a job description, describe their roles and responsibilities, and what type of environment are they going to need to be able to perform. And then also now, what type of, what we call the job specification, what type of skills do they need, the knowledge, the skills, the abilities, and what type of, let's say, the culture, the values do they need to embed. So once you get that right, you try to do kind of a competence mapping, right? So a competence mapping is going to show you that, okay, if you bring in a manager at entry level with certain years of experience, with certain knowledge and skills, competencies, they should be able to, at the entry level, they should be able to have these. Then after 1 year or 2 years, or which we call intermediate. Now it's proficiency. Now we are mapping our proficiency per the competencies. You define these at the beginner's level, at the intermediate level, then at an expert level. What does an operation manager needs to have? Because now this is giving you it's giving you visibility on what the short term is going to look like, the medium term and the long term in terms of competencies, right? So now these documents are very important because now what is going to happen is that now things to do with recruitment, you're going to advertise or design a job description that really fits into the mapping you have.
Yes.
Right? Which mapping, I've told you, is tailored to the goals and objectives.
Yes.
Now, secondly, it's going to also inform performance expectations, right? You say, okay, this person is going to be evaluated success for this role, on this role, for a beginner or intermediate. This is what is expected. This is how success is going to look like, right? Even compensation. Right, you're going to you don't just compensate. This is expensive. It's a budget. It's a cost. So even your it's going to guide your compensation. You're awarding what level of skill set. Right. So once you've done this, the back end of it, right, you've gotten it right because there's also a lot to get that right.
Yes.
The mapping. There's a lot of work that is involvement, stakeholder leadership. All have to contribute to this. Once you've gotten it right, the rest of the work becomes easy. And there's no surprise when the recruitment process is not a surprise. Onboarding is easy because there's a direction, there's a guidance, right? And also then also in the recruitment process, you're also able to track. And now this is where assessment is very important in the recruitment process. How you assess. If you get it wrong, you're likely to also have problems. If you get it right, so you're able to come up with things like this talent is good at this, but he's not. He has gaps here. This is the proficiency level on these competencies, and now that means that when they join, you're managing your expectation as a manager of this employee, and you know the gaps, and now you're already thinking ahead, like how am I going to help this employee to bridge this gap? Now, this is how the training jumps in, the programs to help this employee to really be able to perform at their best. I guess that's how I would look at it.
Yeah, I mean, Herbert, you really touched it very well. I like the fact that you've actually given us sort of like an employee journey map before they get to interact with your brand. You've literally just given us a journey map. We always have something called the customer journey map. And how you've broken this down, I think just gives me sort of a miniature picture of what employee onboarding looks like before it actually happens. So now getting down to one of the overarching numbers or statistics that we get to hear of the attrition rates. You know, employee onboarding becomes very easy, but I think retaining talent is still a challenge for most brands.
That's true.
And it's all tied down to how they felt working with your brand, how they felt as being a part of that ecosystem that you created. What are those things that companies are doing to encourage or to improve their retention rates? What are those things? I know we had a side conversation where you talked about the benefits. You know, some of them are focusing on salary increment, which is based off of a particular period of time that you said that, okay, when this person works for us for a particular period of time and maybe they achieve these expectations, we might want to add something to their salary, you know. So you want to, you just want to just kind of, like, you know, give me a picture of what are the constraints that organizations are having in trying to encourage their employees to love being a part of this bigger vision they're building, and also become great advocates for others, because I get to imagine word of mouth is is from the people that are experiencing your company,
That's true.
culture, and how everything works.
That's true.
So I just want to hear that from your perspective of why are we having high attrition rates, especially when you come to our African setting. There's a report I read recently where they're saying, in European settings, or when you look at, the West, the US and many other economies, that the attrition rate is from around 6 to 9%. South Africa 2024, a report I read is 17%. So I'm not certain how it is here in Rwanda, but also East Africa at large. I would love to understand what's causing that to happen. Why are the numbers burgeoning every other year? Why are we having people changing from one company to another? Is it they normally call it, we are looking for greener pastures, but I also want to understand from your perspective, like, how is company culture contributing to that?
Yeah, that's a very good question and quite a complex one.
I know, yes.
Yeah, but having worked in different organizations with different sectors and competitive ones, I would say, talking about banks, talking about payments, talking about tech, I would say, like, these are the new, banks have been there, but there's a lot of tech now that is happening there. There's a lot of competition that has pushed banks now to really rethink their business models. And so, but I'll look at it in this way. So first of all, we've talked about, it's a new thing, talked about employee experience.
Yes.
Which actually employee experience, when you try to break it down, you're talking about culture, you're talking about the technology, the enabler technology, you're talking about the leadership, very, very important. You're talking about generally employee well-being and welfare.
Yes.
And so organizations are approaching this differently. But these are more of internal factors. But when you also look at external factors,
yes,
you're looking at the new ways of working.
yes,
So let me just give a quick example in the tech space, technology-driven companies, where now you have new skill set. We're talking about things like programming, software engineers. You're talking about now this AI that is really hitting us hard.
yes.
And these are completely new. They are requiring new skill set, different skill set. So you'll figure out that the talent, the qualified talent we have around these areas of business areas is limited, right? So you'll find that when you do a quick survey, how many, for example, product managers do we have in Rwanda? How many software engineers, senior software engineers do we have in Rwanda? How many AI experts do we have now in Rwanda? Leave alone Rwanda, regional-wide, East Africa, Africa as a continent. So even Europe, let's even talk about Europe.
Yes.
Maybe America is a bit advanced, but because this is where you will find most of the tech companies.
Silicon
Valley.
Yes.
But Europe. So now you will find a situation where there's competition for talent, high competition. So basically the demand is higher than the supply for talent. Now, this is where you're going to find that Rwanda is when entry level, we have institutions, learning institutions that are really producing good talent, Carnegie Mellon, ALU, and the others that are really contributing talent, KIST, AUKA, all these institutions are really producing good talent, tech talent. But now when you get to a level where now you need senior talent, because now to produce a senior engineer, you need to have given them exposure. They need to have worked on projects.
Yes.
Right? That's how you develop an expert or a senior engineer. But now, do we have organizations that are offering that locally? We don't. And Rwanda now is moving fast, developing now, but we need the talent. So this is where you're going to find our recruiters or talent acquisition leads sourcing talent, going at a regional level, continental level to source for. But even going across, you'll find that countries that have this talent are limited. You'll find like maybe South Africa,
yes,
maybe Nigeria, maybe Egypt, 5 to 6 countries. So you can imagine the entire continent, right?
Of 1.5 billion.
Of one, yeah, is eyeing those few countries. Right, so that's why you talked about the retention. I was not surprised when you talked about South Africa hitting 20 to. I really understand what it means. I've worked for an organization where we lost some of our talent from surprisingly from companies like Google, Microsoft, Europe.
Wow,
Something you couldn't even. Imagine or see coming. So this is how really it's becoming a complex issue. But now let's come back to understand how our organizations should approach it or are approaching it. In some cases, it's hard to really manage, but in some cases, there are things they can do, which are the ones we talked about: having an inclusive culture, making sure that you're retaining, at least you're providing the basics. Your vision is clear, your business objectives are clear, your career strategies to provide professional growth is available, compensation is competitive, you are benchmarking your compensation and benefits offerings, leadership is expectations are clear, the junior staff, mid-level are receiving coaching opportunities, mentorship opportunities, the well-being and welfare is taken care of. Someone can work remotely so long as they are delivering on their objectives. So those basic things, at least organizations should be in the position to offer those. And then and now they're left with the bit of now the competition, the global competition that definitely will be tricky, but also now have internal strategies around succession. Now this is around business continuity and succession planning. How do you make sure that when I lose a senior engineer, the business is not going to be secure? How am I planning, proactively planning for that, right? Upskill now comes in play. Right, someone is in a managerial level, but how are you preparing them to jump into a senior level?
Yes. If
you lose talent, that is going to take you 3 to 4 months to hire, and this is how now you start to give also growth opportunities. So these are things that are interconnected.
Yes.
And how organizations proactively approach this is going to be the deal breaker.
You're right.
Those who don't get it right, they're definitely going to
struggle. Yes.
Those who get it right, they will survive at least.
Yeah, I mean, Herbert, that's very succinct in the way you put it. I like the fact that you've talked about business succession and continuity. Recently, I was reading a report from McKinsey, and McKinsey mentioned like 4 parts that I probably want to share with you. You've touched them in your delivery, and I felt like they're very important for maybe our audience to get to know. McKinsey talked about, it's an article that he wrote in the Times for an approach to employee experience. And he mentioned something to do with the transactional engagement models that existed back then to transformational experience ecosystems. And he mentioned like 5 pillars. He talked about purpose and meaning at work as one of the things that accentuate the employee experience. He talked about emotional and psychological safety. He talked about autonomy, mastery, and growth, things you've touched, and cultural inclusion and belonging, a sense of belonging, to know that I belong to this bank, I belong to their culture. I'm very proud to associate with this brand. And then giving them tools that can support them in delivering at whatever role that they tend to find themselves in. So when you're talking about that, it now drew me to a conversation of currently we are having an increase in the number of Gen Z, talents.
I've taken over.
Yeah, Gen Zs are literally now in the marketplace.
Yeah.
But the question I have for you, Herbert, which I feel you might want to share your experience on, is how are leaders in these organizations adapting to these changes? Because maybe we are no longer operating in one size fits all. The way you used to deal with millennials and Gen X is now changing.
That's true. Looking
at the behavior of the different generations that are coming into the marketplace. I just love to understand how organizations navigating these changes, and isn't it affecting a lot when it comes to even delivery? If I told you you're working with a millennial and you tell them do X, they will do X and deliver in a specific period of time. But then when you come to a Gen Z, they want you to be very direct, but also clear in how you're communicating. When you come to a Gen X, give them a target, give them what the KPIs, and they're going to deliver, because work is work for them. They take work seriously. A Gen Z will be like, they want you to understand them from where they are and then kind of like carry them along to where you want them to go. But they want you to be direct, and they want you to also hear them. So the question now that I would want to put forward is, what is that one thing that would make a particular generation of people feel like they belong, feel like that they are heard, feel valued in an organization, as opposed to feeling like they are detached? Because now we're still talking about company culture, but I feel like from a generational point of view, how are leaders navigating that?
Very good question, and it's still also quite a complex one for organization. Yes. I'm sure, but let me approach it this way. That's a fact. Gen Zs are they're here, and they're in two leadership positions. They're the soldiers, the managers.
Yes.
Mid-level managers. They're literally influencing, to put it right. So, but again, what do exactly Gen Zs are looking for? So, first of all, to approach it from the organization point of view is that you need to understand what the Gen Zs are looking for. Do your surveys, talk to them, understand what they want. So basically, what I'm trying to say here is that we need to be a bit more scientific in approaching this. I've had an opportunity to see how product managers and software engineers build products. So the first thing they do is to understand the user. It's called user journeys.
Yes.
And then personas.
Yes.
Talk to people, understand what are their pain points, how are they experiencing things. Then with that information, now you come and now try to design prototypes and then get to the development part of things. So I also feel like HR professional or generally leadership organizations should start to look at it in that sense.
Yes.
While when designing EVPs, employee value propositions, or
EVPs, employee value proposition.
Yes.
Okay.
Which has definitely the traditional benefits, things to do, like medical, facilitations like airtime, travel, salaries, all those things, medical. And then there's also now the employee experience we talked about. That is a huge part now. That is very, very important. But now try to tailor it. I think the right term to use is be innovative around the offerings, these offerings. Try to understand what really Gen Zs are looking for.
Yes.
What keeps them motivated? What keeps
what
them
does
engaged?
success look like for them?
What does success look like for them? What's the type of leadership that works for them? You know, how are they envisioning their career growth and professional growth? What are they interested in? So those are things organizations really need to deep dive in and capture this information, gather this information, analyze it, then be able now to come up with innovative offerings. Right? So for me, and that's really how I see it. It's not a problem. Having Gen Zs shouldn't be an issue. But then also at the same time, you're looking at, as you do that, you're also looking at millennials. Millennials are also there. They're now family men and women. Yes. They are what they're interested in is also different.
It's different, yes.
So how do you also engage? Not sure about baby boomers, but what I'm trying to say here is we need to be HR departments or HR leadership, or generally the organizational leadership, because I don't believe that real leadership, what HR does really cuts across the entire organization. HR influences other departments. And leadership comes from across. It's not just from HR. So yes. This is a leadership challenge or a leadership assignment, right? So they need really to go back, step back, do that background work to the surveys and
yes.
you know. But then also organizations are different.
Yes.
And you look at it when you look at the different types of culture. Some organizations are results driven.
Yes. They're transactional.
Others are just into innovations and research work and entrepreneurship, impact. Others are into these are small business, family businesses. It's about protecting what is there, work, family, these concepts, all concepts you had where they say that this is a family. The organization is like we are family.
We are family.
So. And then also you have structured cultures where policies are very important, processes are very important. Basically, things to do with equity and those things are very, very important. So depending on the organization, also it requires different approaches.
Yeah. So Herbert, that's amazing. I mean, our time is fast spent, but just to close up this conversation, I would love to just give you one question, which I would love you to probably give me briefly your mind on, and that's about the silos that we see in organizations. I feel like that has a ripple effect on how the customer-facing teams deal with customers, because to feel like someone at the security checkpoint is not aligned to the bigger vision of the organization. Someone that is in doing laundry or doing housekeeping is not aligned to the bigger vision. How do we create synergy between the different cross-functional teams? In this case, I mean the different departments. And how do we break those silos? Because looking at my experience, I noticed that we get to find challenges when all these teams are not aligned to one bigger vision. Everyone is more about this is my zone and this is what I'm trying to achieve, So I just wanted to know from you how are we going to break these silos, and how does that help in creating a bit of productivity when it comes to delivery and a unified way of doing things in organizations?
Yeah.
You can just give us a brief mind to that.
Yeah. So I think I'll approach it a bit on the environment where we are setting up for employees. So we used to have, back in the days, we used to have leaders working in closed offices, and then you have to go knock and, or even close their doors sometimes. And now we got to a point where working spaces are now completely
They're open.
Right? So that's one way of encouraging collaboration and teamwork. Everyone is approaching the leaders. Literally, your CEO is seated right beside you. Your head of department is right seated there, so you can just walk. You don't need to do back in the days where you pick online. Every office had an online. So that's one very, very important. How we set up our environment, the work environment. Secondly, I would say is things like soft skills. Now soft skills are becoming a very big deal now. Things to do with communication, how we communicate, how we collaborate, and these soft skills or these competence have an enabler, which is technology. The tools we put in place to facilitate communication, to facilitate collaboration, these are very, very important. Literally putting in place tools that you don't. Let's say performance. Anybody can track your performance goals. There's nothing to hide about your performance. Collaboration tools. You have a centralized tool where everyone can share. So it's about work. It's not about your. It's to facilitate. You can literally write to the CEO directly on a chat, right? So those tools are very important to facilitate things like collaboration, to facilitate openness, transparency, performance, where you have tools that now it's a 360 type of feedback, where you can evaluate your peers, you can also evaluate your manager, right? And you can also be evaluated.
So it's two-way.
It's two-way. So I feel like all those interventions are opening up.
Yes.
Exposing people to really be more open and transparent in how they do their work, in how they collaborate, in how they communicate. So I believe that those interventions can really completely phase out these behaviors, traditional behaviors.
Yes. Thank you so much, Herbert. And now we get to the segment that really closes everything. It's been amazing having you today on the podcast.
Thank you.
You've really touched very pertinent areas to our settings and how this can be applied in our operational experiences. So I feel anyone watching us out there, these are things you can go over and try to see that you apply these insights. Because what Herbert is giving us is more like his journey and what he has experienced working in different settings. So Herbert, we are now getting into a segment where we need to get to know you a little bit. So aside everything we've talked about, this is a segment called the Rapid Fire Session.
Okay. And
it's just a simple journey into who you are. Herbert, what does your morning look like? Your morning routine, if you just want to give us a picture. Just something brief. How does your morning look like?
Interesting. So I think it has changed with time. Previously, my mornings would be waking up and getting ready for work. I prepare, have breakfast, and go to work. But I think of recent, it has adjusted a bit, where now it's a bit mixed up, but now I wake up early.
Early what time?
Early, I mean 4
or 5-ish.
Try to do some research work. deep. How do I call it?
So you're a morning person.
I'm a morning person.
Yes.
Really, I love mornings,
Yes.
to be honest. So I mix it with a bit of, so my days are divided. So 3 days in a week, I wake up, do my morning research work for about 3 to 4 hours. Or then I alternate. Another day I wake up, I do my morning workout.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
Basically,
one. That's a good one. What do you do at the end of a long, hectic day?
So I'm a family man. In most times I find myself checking back home to meet the kids when they're back from school. I'll try to help them do their homework. Touch base with how their day went and answer a couple of questions here and there. And then maybe later when it's all set, I watch TV or social media, read the news. Mostly that. Then talk to my wife.
Yes.
Also catch up with her. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. If you were to have a lunch session with anyone, dead or alive, who would that be?
Wow, interesting. So, to be honest with you, I love entrepreneurship. I grew up very interested in entrepreneurship, looking for that opportunity where I can run my own enterprise, or now someone who can really give me share with me ideas around their journeys in entrepreneurship is somebody I would really be
Who would that be?
Interested to hear. Interesting. So there is one gentleman called Mbundu.
Faustin
Mbundu. I've watched him for so many years. I've watched him doing business, growing and becoming a mega entrepreneur. And he also now, what is interesting about him is that he combines it with education. You can see that he really is invested in education. So
it's Faustin Mbundu.
So it's Faustin Mbundu, really. But okay, I don't know. But in terms of leadership also,
yes.
Leadership, I mean, that would be really a dream come true. It's definitely our president.
Our president,
yes,
His Excellency.
Yes, yeah.
Amazing.
He combines both leadership and entrepreneurship,
yes.
And that's really
it's a great pool of skills and experiences.
Yeah.
And this brings it to a wrap of our conversation. It's been a long one. And for those that are watching us there, we've talked about employee experience, majorly focusing on company culture and how to retain employees, how to create systems that make employees find purpose in what they're doing, and as well as how to break silos. Herbert, it's been a pleasure having you on set today.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your insights, and we believe we'll have you again,
if you will.
Yes, so for those that are watching us, it's been the Voice of CX Africa with your host, Stephen Kagame, your CX futurist and customer experience advocate. So please do not forget to subscribe to this very wonderful podcast for more insights, because this will give us a very amazing understanding of what it is that you want, and will curate every content to your liking. So it's Voice of CX Africa, where Africa speaks and the world listens. See you in our next episode. Thank you, Steen.
Thank you.